You know, in any conflict, you really face a fundamental choice. Are you going to be a victim of your circumstances, or are you going to be the master of your environment? Today, we are diving deep into the accountability mindset. It's an incredibly powerful framework for choosing action over blame. And this whole explainer is made possible by our sponsor, The Other Way Marshall Consulting.
So, what exactly is the accountability mindset? Well, at its core, it's about taking complete 100% ownership of your actions and their outcomes. No excuses, no pointing fingers. Just think of it like this. It's the bridge that takes you from a place of powerlessness to a position where you're in command of your own experience and, most importantly, your own safety.
All right, here's our roadmap for today. We're going to kick things off with the core power dynamic. Then, we'll look at how to spot the warning signs when you're slipping into blame. After that, we'll walk through a clear path to get back on track, tackle the huge difference between accountability and fault, and we'll wrap it all up with what's called the sovereign standard.
Okay, let's get right into the heart of it. Section 1, the blame-power trade-off. Every single situation presents this choice, and really understanding it is the key to everything else we're going to talk about. This slide just lays it out perfectly, doesn't it? On one side, you have the victim of circumstance. Their focus is always outward. The problem, the blame, it's always out there. And that means they have to wait for other people or the world to change. But look at the other side, the master of your environment. The focus is inward. The power is in here. And what does that mean? It means you can act right now on your own terms.
And this leads us to a really simple but profound kind of logic. When you accept 100% of the responsibility for your own safety and your own peace, you gain 100% of the power to actually influence them. See, if the solution is out there, you're stuck waiting. But if it's in here, well, you're empowered to act.
But look, shifting away from that accountable mindset, it can be really subtle. It can sneak up on you. So let's talk about the warning signs. Learning to recognize these little internal cues is your first step to stop yourself from just handing over your power.
These are your internal alarm bells. First up, the if-only narrative. You know that little voice in your head, if only they would just... That's it. Then there's the urge to look for an audience. You feel this need to tell your side of the story, to get someone to agree with you. Next, you start moralizing the friction, which is when you start seeing the other person not just as wrong, but as bad or evil. And finally, the big one, justifying your reaction. The moment you say, "they made me do it," that's a dead giveaway you've surrendered control.
This quote just nails it. Blame is like a sedative. Sure, it might numb the immediate sting of a mistake, but it does something far worse. It stops you from fixing the underlying vulnerability that got you there in the first place. Now, spotting these signs is one thing, but actually changing the pattern is a whole other ballgame. If you're really ready to put these principles into action, the Other Way Marshall Consulting's mentorship program is something you should check out. It's 10 weeks of live virtual training in a Zoom-style environment, and it's followed by two 2-hour hands-on sessions so you can learn to apply these personal safety principles physically. The link for that is down in the description. And hey, if you're getting value out of this explainer, do me a favor and hit like and subscribe. It really does help the channel out a ton.
Okay, so what do you actually do the moment you spot one of those warning signs in yourself? Well, there's a clear 4-step process you can use for immediate recovery. Let's walk through exactly how you can reclaim your power.
It goes like this. Step 1. Stop the story. Just silence that internal courtroom that's trying to argue your case and prove you're innocent. Step 2. Identify the handoff. Pinpoint the exact moment you made your sense of peace dependent on what they did. Step 3. Reclaim the weight. This is all about changing your internal language, and we'll hit that on the next slide. And finally, step 4, focus on the exit. Shift your entire goal from proving you're right to just finding the fastest way back to being at peace. This right here is what reclaiming the weight looks like in practice. It's all about your language. The phrase, "they made me angry," that's giving all your power away. But when you shift it to, "I allowed my ego to be hooked," you immediately put the floor back under your own feet. You're acknowledging your role in the dynamic, and with that, you reclaim your power to respond differently next time. Now, I know what you might be thinking. This whole concept can bring up some really important questions and, honestly, some objections. So let's just tackle them head on. We need to get super clear on what accountability is and what it is not. This is probably the most common and, frankly, the most important question we get. When we talk about taking 100% responsibility, are we just finding a new way to blame the person who is actually harmed? The answer is an absolute, unequivocal no, and the difference is critical. Look, blame is always about the past.
its only goal is to find a villain and assign shame. Accountability is completely different. It's about the future. Its goal is to find a solution and make sure that a vulnerability can never be exploited in the same way again. One is about shame, the other is all about power.
Okay, that makes sense. But what about fault? Let's be real. In an actual conflict or an attack, isn't the other person clearly at fault?
And the answer is yes. Of course. Legally, morally, an attacker is absolutely responsible for their malice. No question. But you are responsible for your safety. Focusing on their fault, while it might feel justified, is strategically useless to you in the moment. It just locks you into that victim role. But focusing on your responsibility, that transforms you from a victim into a strategist.
Now this next one might seem a little counterintuitive. How on earth can taking on more responsibility actually reduce your stress?
Well, it all comes down to control. Real psychological stress comes from that feeling of being powerless, of being out of control. When you blame others, you're essentially saying, I can't feel better until they change. You're waiting. But the second you take full ownership, the solution is always in your hands. It's within your reach. And that immediately releases all that internal pressure. So, this all brings us to the final takeaway of this whole mindset. It's a personal commitment, a philosophy you can live by called the sovereign standard. This is the standard. It's really a personal declaration. It says, I am responsible for my safety, my peace, and my exit. If I fail to maintain these, the first person I look to is myself. By accepting all the weight, I gain all the power. Just let that sink in for a moment.
So I want to leave you with a question, a challenge to take with you into your week. What is one situation, could be big, could be small, where you can consciously decide to shift your focus away from looking for someone to blame and instead start looking for a solution that is completely within your control?
Thank you so much for joining us for this explainer. From all of us at The Other Way Marshall Consulting, stay safe and stay sovereign.